Hey guys, welcome back to another interesting Reddit confession story to listen while watching Minecraft gameplay. I haven't told the police everything. Honestly, I haven't even told my lawyer everything. If I did, I'd probably be trading my current luxury apartment for a 6x8 cell, but the weight of this is starting to crush me, and I figure if I post this under a throwaway account, at least the truth exists somewhere in the world. My name is Mark. 3 years ago, I was a nobody. I was working a dead-end job at a logistics firm, living paycheck to paycheck, and dating a woman named Sarah who was way out of my league. Sarah was beautiful, ambitious, and, unfortunately, from a family with old money. Her father, Arthur, was a titan in the real estate world. He was the kind of man who didn't just walk into a room. He owned the air inside it. From the moment I met him, he made it clear I was a temporary fixture in his daughter's life. A placeholder, as he once called me over a glass of scotch that cost more than my car. "You're a nice enough kid, Mark," Arthur told me during my first visit to their estate. "But let's be real, you can't give her the life she's accustomed to. Eventually, the novelty of slumming it will wear off, and she'll come back to our world." I hated him, but more than that, I envied him. I wanted that power. I wanted to be the one looking down on people. The tension started a year into our relationship. Arthur's health began to fail. He had a series of small strokes that left him physically weakened, but mentally as sharp and cruel as ever. Sarah was devastated. She spent every weekend at the estate, leaving me alone in our cramped apartment. That's when the offers started. Arthur called me to his bedside one Tuesday while Sarah was at work. The room smelled of expensive leather and antiseptic. "Mark," he rasped, his eyes tracking me like a hawk. "I'm dying, and I've realized something. Sarah is too soft. If I leave the company to her, the board will eat her alive within 6 months." I didn't know what to say. "She's smarter than you think, Arthur." He laughed, a dry, rattling sound. "She's kind. Kindness is a liability in my tax bracket. I need someone who knows what it's like to be hungry. Someone who will do anything to keep from going back to the bottom." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I have a secondary set of accounts, offshore, untraceable. There's about $40 million in there. It's not part of the official will. No one knows it exists, not the IRS, not my lawyers, and definitely not Sarah." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," Arthur said, a wicked glint in his eye, "I'm going to give you the access codes. But there's a condition. You have to ensure that Sarah never gets her hands on the main estate. You have to help me rearrange the succession." I should have walked out. I should have told Sarah. But $40 million is a number that changes the way your brain functions. It turns no into how. I agreed. I thought I was being clever. I thought I could take the money and still protect Sarah. I didn't realize that Arthur wasn't looking for an heir. He was looking for a partner in a crime that hadn't even happened yet. And by the time I realized what he really wanted, it was already too late to turn back. Because 3 days later, Arthur died, and the police didn't think it was from a stroke. The funeral was a blur of black veils and fake condolences. Sarah was a wreck. She leaned on me for everything, never suspecting that the man holding her hand during the burial was the same man who had been plotting with her father to disinherit her. But here's the thing. Arthur's death wasn't supposed to happen that fast. The night he died, I was at the estate. Arthur had asked me to bring him a specific file from his study. When I got there, he was agitated. He kept talking about the others and how they were coming for his legacy. He looked at me with pure terror, a look I'd never seen on him. "Mark, you have to do it tonight," he had urged. "The transfer. If I go before it's done, the encryption locks everyone out forever." He gave me a USB drive and a handwritten password. I went to his laptop, my hands shaking. I initiated the transfer to an account I had set up in the Cayman Islands. As the progress bar ticked up, Arthur started gasping. I ran to him. He was clutching his chest. I reached for the phone to call 911, but his hand, stronger than I expected, clamped onto my wrist. "Wait," he hissed. "Finish the transfer first." I watched him. I watched the man who had insulted me, belittled me, and looked down on me struggle for air. And I watched the progress bar. 98%, 99%, 100%. By the time I picked up the phone, Arthur was gone. The medical examiner ruled it a natural cardiac event due to his previous strokes. But a week later, Sarah's brother, Julian, showed up. Julian was the black sheep, a high-functioning addict with a mountain of gambling debt. He hadn't been home in years, but he arrived for the reading of the will like a vulture to a carcass. When the lawyer announced that the majority of the estate was tied up in legal trusts that Julian couldn't touch, he lost it. He cornered me in the kitchen of the estate. "I know what you are, Mark," Julian spat, his breath smelling of gin. "You're a parasite. My father hated you. There is no way he didn't leave a contingency for someone like you. Where is it?" "I don't know what you're talking about, Julian," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The money is missing," he whispered, leaning in close. "I've been tracking Dad's private ledgers for years. There's a hole in the accounts. $40 million worth of a hole. And it moved the night he died, while you were in the house." I felt the blood drain from my face. I thought I had been careful. I thought the accounts were invisible. "If I don't get my cut," Julian said, "I'm going to the police with a theory. A theory about a greedy boyfriend who smothered a dying old man to make sure a wire transfer went through. I wasn't a killer. I hadn't touched Arthur. But Julian was right. I had waited. I had let him die to ensure the money moved. In the eyes of the law, was there a difference? The next month was a living nightmare. Julian started stalking me. He'd send me photos of the estate's security cameras. He'd call me at 3 a.m. just to breathe into the phone. Sarah noticed I was changing. I was jumpy, irritable, and I couldn't look her in the eye. She thought I was grieving. She thought the stress of the inheritance was getting to me. "Mark, we don't need the money," she told me one night. "We have each other. Let Julian have the house if he wants it so badly. Let's just go." I couldn't. I had $40 million sitting in a digital vault, and I couldn't touch a cent of it without Julian knowing. I was a multi-millionaire who couldn't afford to buy a coffee without looking over my shoulder. Then, Julian's demands escalated. He didn't want a cut anymore. He wanted it all. He told me to meet him at the old boathouse on the edge of the property. He said he had proof that would put me away for life. I went there intending to negotiate. I really did. I had a backpack with $50,000 in cash, all I could withdraw without triggering alarms, to buy his silence for a few more days. But when I arrived at the boathouse, Julian wasn't alone, and the person standing next to him was the last person in the world I expected to see. Standing next to Julian, looking perfectly calm, was Sarah, my Sarah, the woman who didn't care about the money, the woman who was too soft for the business world. She wasn't crying. She wasn't grieving. She was holding a folder of documents and looking at me with a coldness that made Arthur look like a saint. "You really are as predictable as he said you were, Mark," she said. Her voice was different, harder. "Sarah, what's going on?" I stammered. "My father didn't choose you because you were hungry," she explained, stepping toward me. "He chose you because you were the perfect fall guy. He knew Julian was stealing from the company. He knew Julian would eventually kill him for the inheritance." Julian shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't kill him. He died on his own." "Shut up, Julian," Sarah snapped. She turned back to me. "My father wanted to protect me, Mark, but he also wanted to test me. He told me about the offshore accounts months ago. He told me he was going to tempt you with them. He said if you were loyal, you'd tell me. If you were greedy, you'd keep it a secret." She sighed, a sound of genuine disappointment. "You kept the secret, Mark. You watched my father die, for a progress bar. I was doing it for us." I yelled. "I wanted to give you everything." "No," she said. "You wanted to be him. And now, you're going to help us one last time." She explained the trap. The $40 million I had transferred wasn't Arthur's hidden wealth. It was actually embezzled funds from the company's pension lid. Arthur had been stealing for years to cover his own bad investments. By initiating that transfer on the night of his death, using my own credentials and a secondary account I created, I had effectively pinned 40 years of corporate fraud on myself. "The police are already on their way," Sarah said, checking her watch. "Julian and I have discovered the digital trail you left. We've also found the pillow you used to smother my father. It has your DNA on it. I made sure of that while you were sleeping last night. I felt like the world was tilting. You planted evidence, your own father. He was dying anyway, Mark. He wanted a legacy. I'm giving him one. The legacy of a daughter who saved the company from a predatory boyfriend and a wayward brother." "Wait, and a wayward brother." Julian's eyes went wide. "Sarah, what are you?" Before he could finish, Sarah pulled a small, silver pistol from her coat and shot Julian twice in the chest. He fell back into the water, without a sound. She looked at me, The gun still smoking? Julian was the one who killed Dad in this version of the story. You were his accomplice. But when you two had a falling out over the money tonight, things got violent. You killed Julian. I arrived just in time to see it. She tossed the gun to me. Instinctively, I caught it. My fingerprints were now on the murder weapon. You have two choices, Mark, Sarah said, her voice as smooth as silk. You can stay here, wait for the police, and spend the rest of your life in prison for murder and fraud. Or you can take that backpack of cash, get in the boat, and disappear. I won't tell them which way you went, for at least an hour. Why? I whispered. Why let me go? Because, she smiled. As long as you're a fugitive, the case stays open. As long as it stays open, the missing 40 million stays missing. It's a very clean tax write-off for the company. I didn't hesitate. I took the boat. That was 2 years ago. I'm writing this from a humid apartment in a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty with the US. The $50,000 is almost gone. I work as a dishwasher under a fake name. Every night, I see Sarah's face on the news. She's the CEO now. She's a hero of the business world. She's the woman who survived a family tragedy to build an empire. I thought I was playing Arthur. I thought I was the one being ruthless. But I was just a pawn in a game played by a woman who learned everything from the man I thought I was outsmarting. Arthur was right about one thing. Kindness is a liability. I just didn't realize that his daughter was the least liable person I'd ever met. Now I'm left with one question. That keeps me awake. Did Arthur actually die of a stroke? Or did Sarah just tell me that, so I wouldn't look for the marks on his neck? I'll never know. And that's the real inheritance. It's been 3 years since I hopped that boat in the dark. 3 years of scrubbing grease off plates in a humid coastal town in Brazil. Watching my hands go from soft office worker palms to calloused, scarred things. Most people in my position would try to forget. They'd drink the local cachaca until Sarah's face blurred into the background of their nightmares. But I didn't. I spent every spare cent I had on internet cafes. I didn't look at social media or celebrity gossip. I looked at the one thing Sarah thought I was too stupid to understand. The ledger. Remember that USB drive Arthur gave me? The one I used to transfer the pension funds. Sarah thought she wiped the drive. She thought she'd framed me with a digital ghost. But Arthur was a paranoid man. He didn't just give me a password. He gave me a dead man's switch, encrypted into the metadata of the transfer software. Last week, on the 3-year anniversary of Arthur's death, the switch activated. I opened my burner laptop in the back of a smoky bar, and there it was, a single file titled, For the Placeholder. I clicked it, expecting a taunt. Instead, I found a video. It was Arthur, filmed just days before he died. He looked haggard, his skin like gray parchment, but his eyes were sharper than ever. Mark, he whispered in the video, if you're seeing this, it means Sarah won. It means she was as cold and brilliant as I hoped she'd be. And it means she's likely discarded you, like a used tissue. He chuckled, a wet, horrible sound. I told her kindness was a liability, but I never told her that arrogance is a death sentence. She thinks she owns the company now, but she doesn't know about this Series B investors I brought in privately 10 years ago. Investors who don't care about family names. Investors who, let's just say, they don't use lawyers to settle debts. The file contained a list of names. Names that made my blood run cold. They weren't businessmen. They were cartels, money launderers. People you don't write off as a tax loss. Arthur hadn't just embezzled the pension funds. He had borrowed $40 million from the kind of people who skin you alive for a late payment. And Sarah, by saving the company and taking the throne, she hadn't inherited a fortune. She had inherited a debt to the devil. And the best part, the account I transferred that money into, the one Sarah thinks is a digital trail to frame me, is the only account those investors can track. To them, I have their money, but the encryption key to release it, it's buried in a code that only works if I'm alive. 2 days ago, a black SUV pulled up outside my shanty apartment. I didn't run. I walked right up to the tinted window. I know why you're here, I told the man in the passenger seat. And I know where your 40 million is. But if you want it, we're going to have to make a trip back to the States. I have a business partner who needs to settle the bill. I'm on a private plane now. I'm looking at a photo of Sarah on the cover of Forbes. She looks powerful. She looks untouchable. She has no idea that the placeholder is coming home. And I'm bringing her father's oldest, darkest friends with me. She wanted me to be a fugitive, so the case would stay open. Well, Sarah, the case is about to be closed. Permanently. I'm not this soft guy you met in that logistics firm anymore. You taught me how to be a monster, Sarah. Now, I'm going to show you what happens when a monster loses everything and has nothing left to fear. The pilot just announced we're over Florida. See you soon, Sarah. I hope you saved enough for the tip.